November 2025 is stacked with indies that actually dare to stand out, not just look cool. We're talking heartfelt stories, chaotic experiments, and small studios swinging way above their weight. From rhythm adventures and pixel-perfect JRPGs to strategy sims and roguelite madness, this month's lineup proves indie devs are still running circles around the big guys. So grab your wishlist and settle in. These are the top 10 indie games you should be watching in November 2025 across PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, S, and Switch 2.
The little mouse learned how to knit warm clothes. They fixed the stove and filled the air with the scent of fresh-baked pies.
Winter Burrow. Let's start with something small, literally. Before we dive into the big adventures later in this list, we begin with a mouse who's about to steal November's spotlight. Winter Burrow, from Pine Creek Games and published by Noodle Cake, is expected to arrive on the 12th of November 2025 for PC, Switch 2, and probably other major platforms as well. You'll play as a tiny mouse returning from the big city, only to find your childhood burrow collapsed and your aunt mysteriously missing. From there, the story becomes about rebuilding, gathering twigs, moss, and memories to turn that ruined den into a warm home again. Expect quiet moments by a fireplace, soft light on frosted leaves, and a survival loop that favours care over chaos. Gameplay focuses on exploration and crafting, knitting sweaters to fight the cold, baking pies, decorating your burrow, and befriending woodland neighbours who each carry their own small stories. I'm expecting this one to mix cosy survival with emotional storytelling, something that feels more like healing than hustling. It's the kind of indie that sneaks up on you and stays for the winter.
Look at you. Aren't you just as cute as a button?
I came to understand I was something called a baby.
Goodnight, universe. Now, if Winter Burrow warmed you up with its cozy pacing, the next one's about to mess with your mind, literally. Goodnight Universe comes from Nice Dream, the studio behind Before Your Eyes, and it's expected to land this November 11th for PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, S, and probably Switch 2. You step into the role of Isaac, a 6-month-old baby just beginning to realize he has psychic powers. What he wants most is simple: love and acceptance from his family, but there's a sinister tech corporation watching, wanting to exploit him. The game's story leans heavily into emotional territory, mixing innocence with tension as you navigate how a child's perception of love and danger can be manipulated by the world around him. What really makes this one fascinating is the camera as controller system. The same groundbreaking idea the team perfected in Before Your Eyes. Your real-world gaze controls Isaac's perspective, creating an eerie bond between you and the baby. I'm expecting an interactive narrative that's heartfelt, weird, and deeply human, the kind that makes you pause between moments and wonder who's really watching who.
You are still a mere student, an apprentice, a novice. Yet you face impossible odds. But you have the gift.
Forestrike. All right, enough quiet emotions. Let's talk broken ribs and perfect parries. Coming from Skeleton Crew Studio and designer Thomas Olsen, Forestrike is expected to hit 17th of November 2025 under the ever-chaotic banner of Devolver Digital. Set in a myth-tinted empire, torn apart by corruption, you play you, a martial artist crossing the land to free the Emperor from an admiral's iron grip. Each journey is different, and every death sends you spiraling back to his mental dojo, the Foresight realm, where he rehearses fights before stepping into reality. It's a brilliant twist on roguelite repetition. Failure becomes training, not punishment. Combat plays like a love letter to old-school kung fu cinema, with pixel-sharp animation and a rhythm closer to a puzzle than a brawler. You chain moves, counter mobs, and apply lessons from 5 eccentric masters whose teachings grant permanent upgrades. Expect every encounter to test timing, precision, and patience. More Shaw brothers than Hades. What excites me most is how the foresight loop might blur thought and muscle memory. I can already picture that one perfect run where instinct finally clicks. Forestrike feels destined to turn discipline itself into an art form. Whiskerwood. After all that bone-cracking kung fu, maybe it's time to let the fists rest and the brains take over. Whiskerwood, from Minakata Dynamics and published by Hooded Horse, is expected to arrive this November 6th, and this one's all about building, surviving, and occasionally defying your cat overlords. You'll guide a society of mice forced to serve a smug feline empire. Every new island you settle becomes a delicate balancing act. Keep your mouse folk fed, housed, and happy while meeting the impossible demands of the clawed tyrants above. The twist? Your colonies aren't flat. You'll dig into cliffs, climb mountains, and stack ramshackle towers skyward, engineering elaborate systems of pipes, steam heaters, and conveyor belts to keep everything running. With more than 40 resources to manage and a full climate simulation to wrestle with, this isn't your average cute city builder. Expect a complex dance between survival and rebellion, where automation, trade, and morale collide under whisker-thin pressure. I can already see myself turning the cat's tribute shipments into the slow burn of an uprising. Whiskerwood looks ready to make tyranny strangely satisfying to outsmart. Kingdoms of the Dump. After micromanaging oppressed mice and their feline overlords, you deserve something a little more trashy, in the best way possible. Kingdoms of the Dump, developed by Roach Games and Dream Sloth Games, is expected to roll onto PC and consoles on the 18th of November 2025, bringing SNES era magic back to life through the unlikeliest heroes imaginable. 2 janitors. Set in the lands of Phil, the game follows Dustin Binsley, the trash can knight, as he fights through the 5.5 kingdoms to stop a full-scale garbage war. The world here is no typical fantasy backdrop. It's built from discarded relics, corroded castles, and heaps of beautifully animated refuse that somehow feel alive. Expect turn-based grid combat, spiced up with timed hits, platforming, and elevation mechanics, meaning no random encounters, no cheap bushes blocking your path, and plenty of clever field puzzles. There's real pedigree here too. Hiroki Kikuta, composer of Secret of Mana, contributes music alongside a full indie art team that nails that crunchy 16-bit look. I'm expecting this one to hit every nostalgia nerve while still feeling fresh. A handcrafted JRPG where heart, humour and hard work come straight from the folks who literally sweep the floors. Unbeatable. We've gone from garbage kingdoms to kung fu foresight, but now it's time to turn the volume way up. Unbeatable, developed by D-Cell Games, is expected to finally drop in November 2025, and this one's pure adrenaline wrapped in pink hair and loud guitars. You play as Beat, a runaway musician living in a world where music has literally been outlawed. Between dodging cops, rocking illegal concerts, and getting tangled in half-real, half-dream encounters, The game fuses rhythm combat and narrative exploration like nothing else out there. You'll spend half your time walking through stylish anime cityscapes, talking to rebels and misfits. The other half, you'll be hammering out two-button rhythm battles where every mistake hits harder than a snare crash. Its art style is loud, messy and confident. Think hand-drawn anime with a neon fever, but with meaning behind the chaos. Expect a 6 to 8 hour story mode filled with set pieces that sync emotion to soundtrack. And an arcade mode loaded with modifiers, online challenges, and a full progression system. Unbeatable is less about perfect timing and more about pure catharsis. A rhythm game that makes rebellion feel like the only right tempo. Moonlighter 2: The Endless Vault. After all that stage diving in Unbeatable, it's time to settle down and actually make a living. Or at least pretend to. Moonlighter 2: The Endless Vault, from Digital Sun and 11-bit Studios, is expected to open its shop doors on the 19th of November, first in early access for PC. You once again play the daring merchant adventurer, juggling two very different shifts. Dungeon crawler by night, small business owner by day. This time, you and a group of stranded townsfolk have washed up in the colourful world of Tresna, where the ruins hide relics and the economy is in pieces. Expect to explore 3 sprawling biomes filled with unpredictable enemies, with every run feeding into the heartbeat of your shop back home. Loot, price, and sell. But don't get greedy, because one bad fall wipes your profits clean. The sequel deepens everything. Over 120 relics, 4 weapon types, nearly 100 perks, plus expanded town building and customization systems that let you reinvest in the entire community. I'm expecting a smoother combat flow, richer crafting, and far more reasons to care about every coin you earn. Moonlighter 2 feels like capitalism and courage rolled into one, proof that adventure doesn't end when the dungeon closes. Possessors. We've gone from cozy commerce to complete chaos now. Possessors, from Heart Machine and published by Devolver Digital, is expected to hit on the 11th of November 2025, and this one's looking like a brawler's fever dream stitched into a sci-fi nightmare. You play as Luca, the host, sharing a body with Rem, an unwilling parasite who'd rather argue than cooperate. Together they traverse a quarantined megacity, torn open by an interdimensional collapse. Skyscrapers gutted, aquariums half submerged, streets overrun by creatures that shouldn't exist. It's equal parts platformer and panic, built around razor-tight combat that borrows the precision of platform fighters. Expect juggling, dodging, and air-launch combos that punish hesitation as much as poor timing. Heart Machine, the team behind Hyperlight Drifter and Solar Ash, is known for world building that feels haunted yet alive, and this looks like their darkest creation yet. Multiple story paths branch across a single interconnected sprawl, with NPCs whose backstories sting harder than the bosses they foreshadow. Personally, this is the kind of game where every hit feels deliberate, and it doesn't just ask you to survive the collapse, it wants you to dance through it.
1989. A guy named Collier lived here, but he wasn't doing well. Day in and day out, always the same chores.
The Berlin apartment. After the dust and debris of Possessors, it feels right to take a quiet walk indoors. The Berlin apartment, developed by BTF and published in partnership with Byte Rockers Games and Parco Games, is expected to open its doors on November 17th for PC, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X/S. You play Dilara, assisting her father Malik, a handyman hired to renovate an aging apartment in Berlin. But this is no ordinary job. Every nail pulled and photo frame uncovered reveals a story buried in the walls. The apartment becomes a living diary, spanning a full century of residents whose lives intersect through relics left behind: a soldier's medal, a child's drawing, a cracked radio. Every discovery unlocks a short, self-contained vignette, its own era, tone, and gameplay twist. From pre-war optimism to Cold War paranoia to modern uncertainty. The game's warm comic book art style softens its melancholy, balancing personal storytelling with a vivid sense of history. I'm expecting it to feel more like reading a century-long anthology than playing a traditional adventure. The Berlin apartment looks ready to prove that sometimes the most haunting worlds aren't built. They're inherited, one floorboard at a time. Quarantine Zone, the last check. If the Berlin apartment showed what history leaves behind, Quarantine Zone, the last check, is all about stopping the next disaster before it starts. Developed by Brigada Games and published by Devolver Digital, it's expected to arrive this November 2025 and looks like Papers, Please crashed head-on with a zombie outbreak. You're the commander of a border checkpoint in a collapsing city. Every survivor who steps up to your barricade could be salvation or infection, and you only have your scanners and your gut to tell the difference. Expect to sift through terrified civilians, smugglers, and the already infected while juggling power shortages, drone strikes, and the moral math of who gets to live another day. What makes it fascinating is the mix of bureaucracy and bioterror. You're not mowing down hordes. You're making calls that decide the fate of thousands. Manage your base, ration medicine, study corpses for upgrades, and pray your next decision doesn't doom the entire quarantine. I'm expecting something brutally methodical, the kind of game that makes every approve or deny feel like pulling a trigger. Quarantine Zone isn't about surviving the apocalypse. It's about making sure it never escapes your walls. And that's the lineup. 10 upcoming indies, each doing something bold enough to grab your time and maybe your wallet. What's great about this month is the range. Cute survival games next to dystopian thrillers, emotional narratives colliding with pure chaos. It's the kind of variety that keeps indie gaming alive and unpredictable. So which one has you the most curious? Let me know below. Hit that like button if you found a new favourite, and I'll catch you in the next deep dive.